Hello, Brick Sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris, and it is February, so it is time for our sort and chat. If you're not familiar with these videos, this is something I do once a month. It's not for everybody, I know, because it's a very long video, but this is something to kind of listen to in the background. You know, if you got some sorting to do, or you got a Lego project, you can put this on the background and find out what's going on in my channel. Just give you some updates and kind of some insights while I sort some Legos. And I have to do that. You see this bin? This is absolutely packed. This is my bin of shame for the last few weeks here, and it's a mess. So I got to sort this out, and we'll chat while we do it. A couple things. These are my little Sculpties. I'm sure you guys have seen these in the videos. I've got a lot of them. This is only a few here. In my tree videos, I always use these guys. I got the leaf guy and the wood Sculpty. But these ones have been appearing a lot, and some people have asked what they are. These are the retired colors, and so they're grumpy and retired. I got the old gray, old dark gray, and old brown there. So they just kind of hang out on top of the logo usually like this. And just something to put in the background of the videos. I'm going to move this stuff over though because I have sorting to do. Push those to the outside, and let's go ahead and dive in here. Now, I've been doing a lot of projects, I really have a bad habit of starting a lot of projects and not finishing some before I start others. But, you know, that's what keeps it fun. That's what keeps it interesting. I mentioned in another video, I use these bins. I've probably got 20 or 30 of these, and they don't have like specific purposes generally. I just keep them around for when I need a bin, such as a bin of shame like this, or a lot of times I'll start a project bin. So I'm working on something, maybe it's just a concept, it may turn into a video, it may not, and I can just throw it all into a bin, keep it together. When I'm done with it, put it in the bin of shame if I'm not going to use it, or make a video and then put it in the bin of shame. You'll notice some more colors in this bin of shame than I normally do. There's a lot of brighter stuff. That's because recently I've been working a lot on cars. You know, we're getting a little further in the Lego City, and we're starting to get to some of the more detailed points. And cars have been a big focus for me. I've also done some boats, but especially cars. And you know, I've bought some Speed Champion stuff, more for parts review videos than anything. Those are fun, and those have done pretty well on the channel. But you know, buying stuff to learn from, techniques, new pieces, all that is always exciting for me. So I got some new Speed Champions. I got some more consumer type cars. So if you watch my stuff, I got this Ferrari, that's a Speed Champion. I got this McLaren, and then I bought a couple more just like traditional Lego City cars. So I'm reaching for boxes here. A taxi, and then this car. All those videos you can find on my page if you're interested, but none of them are really there to review sets. As you guys probably know, set reviewing is not my thing per se. I did a little bit ago start Brick Sculpt reviews, and sadly, well, not really sadly, because honestly it didn't mean much to me, but it's kind of dead in the water. It's still there. The videos are still there. I did a little bit of it, and you know, it wasn't that the videos weren't successful, because for how new the channel was, they were getting views. It was more just it's not what I want. You know, it's not what Brick Sculpt is. We're not a review site. You know, I can do little reviews here and there, but I'm not just buying sets to review them. I want to talk about parts and technique and mocks and share information with you guys, and you guys share information with me. That's why we're here. So unfortunately, Brick Sculpt reviews isn't really doing much these days. Maybe it'll pick up again. We'll see. I'm just going to kind of leave it be for now until I get a wild hair that maybe I want to start doing again, or maybe it just kind of has to have its time to fade out. There's a cut piece. Back in my childhood, I used to cut a lot of pieces, you know, to make things work. There was a lot less part selection back then, and I was a lot more Lego abusive. I learned that term this week on one of my video comments. I like that one. So yeah, I used to cut some stuff. You know, I'd try to make vehicles that people could sit in, so I'd cut these out, put two of them together. You know, little stuff like that. I don't know why this is in here. I think I took it apart to get some yellow parts for one of my cars. This was an old pickup truck I had. Yeah, it was probably paired with this. Yep, just like that. I don't use these anymore. These fender or wheel wells are kind of outdated for the wheel sizes I use nowadays. Everything's changed so much, which is a good thing. But also, you know, got to keep that little nostalgia to it. I don't mind doing some of the older stuff too. But in order to progress and make the city look cooler and cooler and sharpen my skills, obviously we got to explore new techniques, new pieces, and try to always improve, right? That's the goal. So yeah, I do still have some older collection stuff around. I actually have a video planned. I haven't gotten too deep into it yet, but I have a video where I built this really cool old dark green Jeep. It's like almost like a Willys Jeep. I might even have it right around here. Let me see if I can find it. All right, it's missing a couple wheels, but you'll get the point. I built this here for my old city. Obviously I needed front wheels, and I think it's missing part of the front there too. But it was really cool. And in that city, I did 4 wide vehicles. Everything was a little smaller scale there. The roads were narrower. There's another cut part. But I loved this vehicle. I thought it looked so cool. So I wanted to try to scale it up. So I do have a video planned, right? I did scale this up. It got a little out of control. I'll show you in a future video. But, you know, I have a whole box of these older vehicles that I really don't know what to do with. You know, I'm not going to use them in my city just because they don't fit the new aesthetic of the new city. But I don't want to get rid of them. I probably will end up just having to take them apart. I can always rebuild. You know, this stuff is not too sentimental to me because the cool thing about Lego is you can always put it back together, especially if it's not anything crazy complex. It's also one of my favorite things about the YouTube portion of my Lego habit. I think we should call it a Lego habit more than a hobby. But one of the cooler things about it is that pretty much everything I'm doing is now on the internet. So if I ever do want to look back at stuff I did in the past, it's all recorded. I've got a history of it, which is kind of neat. Something I've never really had before, so I can only think about the stuff I've made in the past. I can't really go back and see it. Now, obviously, that hasn't quite hit yet, because most of the stuff I've put on this channel I still have. But someday, a long time down the road, that could be pretty cool to go back and review that. I apologize if you hear me sniffling a bit, if I sound congested. I've been fighting this stupid cold for like probably 3 weeks now. I'm past the point of it being like where I feel bad, but the congestion is terrible, especially when I talk a lot. You know, at work I do a lot of bike fixing, but I also do a lot of bike selling. And when I'm selling a bike, I get into these crazy long sales pitches. And I talk and talk and talk, and I can't stop coughing, and it gets all the mucus flowing. Hate being sick. So yeah, if you hear me sniffling, I apologize. If I cough a little, I apologize too. These longer videos, these sort and chats, I try to do them as unedited as possible, for your sake and my sake. For me, it's just, you know, when I make this video and it turns out to be an hour long or so, to go through with a fine-tooth comb and edit that is just a pain in the butt. And these are not designed to be high production quality videos. None of my videos are designed to be high production quality videos, to be honest with you. But you probably know that. We're all about the Lego here, less about the video. But so I treat these more like a live stream where I'm just here talking, getting something done, and you guys are here with me, which is awesome. These videos I definitely do for me. You know, if I were doing these to get big views and big, you know, get more subscriptions, I understand they're not going to do that. You know, I mean, I don't just do them for me. I do them for you guys to fill you in on stuff that's going on at the channel and the builds and all that. But you know, I totally get that only a select handful of people are interested in seeing this kind of stuff. And most people are not, and that's totally cool. I never expect to get a lot of views on these, But for the people that really are into this channel a lot, it's a great way to stay informed. And like I said, put it on in the background of your sorting or whatever you're doing. And hopefully I can entertain you for an hour or so and entertain myself. So I just wanted to kind of get the top off this. Now I'm going to start dumping bits out and sorting them. I like to kind of get a little bit into the bin first. I use kind of the same sorting setup every single time. And if you are new to these videos, I try to do these sorting chats once a month. That's going to be the goal going forward. So this one's February, and I usually try to time it when I either have a lot of new Lego Day stuff to put away, or I have a lot of bin of shame, which is usually always to sort and put away. Because my system on the wall, I'll take a peek here, ready? That system works great. The thing is, though, I'm really bad about building, and I just get into this crazy mode where I just build, and I'm just rifling through parts, and the creative juices are flowing, and I'm bad about cleaning up after myself. So like it slows down the process, and I do, there's a reason for it, why I don't, but I just keep going, and then by the end, the whole table is covered in loose parts. It's like, crap, now it's time I gotta go to bed, and I have a table full of junk. So what happens? 9 times out of 10, I throw it in the bin, turn off the lights, and go to bed. Or leave it on the table, the next day throw it in the bin. But, it's a bad habit, but it's mostly just because I'm feverishly got an idea in my head I need to get out, and I'm working through it, and cleanup is secondary. I'd rather just grab another of the part, and that's why I like to have a big selection. But what happens when I do that is as it ends up in this bin, I get into another project, I go in these bins, and I'm missing all my gray plate or something that I used recently, and then I can't build as effectively because I'm hunting for pieces more than building. I remember I've been, playing with Lego, building with Lego for a long time. And in my younger years, even my, after my dark ages, maybe a couple of years ago, I remember a large portion before I had this crazy sorting setup. The majority of the time I spent building was literally hunched over a big bin of Lego, and sorting through it and trying to find the piece I need. Well, the cool thing is now with the setup I have, I do my sorting when I do my sorting, but for the most part, everything I need, I know where it is, which is very unlike me. That's something that this episode of Chris's Lego World, where I have gotten to the sorting stuff, has been completely different from anything I've done in the past, because I now have everything accessible, for the most part, at my fingertips, ready to use, and I can really just focus on building when it's time to build. And it makes a huge difference. Now, I understand not everyone is going to do that or even needs to do that. Depending on how into this habit you are, you may or may not actually need to sort to that degree. When you're just doing it casually and maybe your collection's a little smaller, obviously you don't need to have this level of breakdown of sorting so you can get everything easily. But obviously when I'm trying to pump out a video every other day, I need to know where my stuff is, get things accomplished in the limited time that I have to get them accomplished in. So it makes a big difference for me. Speaking of organization, not so much on the sorting front, but I want to talk about my video posting. So I'm trying something this week, and I'll probably try it for this whole month, assuming I can keep up with it. My posting habits for the last, probably 3, 4, 5 months have been every other day. I did every day for a while. It was too much. And then I kind of got burnt out a little bit, and I went to like 1, maybe 2 a week, which was too little. We've got a whole mama bear, papa bear, baby bear situation here. And so then I landed on every other day, and it is winter right now, so work is not busy. I have a little bit more energy. Free time stays the same. I still have to work, but the energy level changes. I'm not don't have a lot to do at the shop in the middle of winter in Chicagoland. It is cold. It is snowy. Not a lot of people are buying bikes, believe it or not. But we are still open. We are still serving the community as we can. But anyway, so I have more energy, which means I can dedicate more time to this. I can stay up a little bit later working on it, and it doesn't affect my day-to-day as much. So I am posting every other day. It's working out pretty good. But the one thing I don't like is the patterns of it. You know, I'm hoping you guys kind of follow that and you realize, okay, if I don't have a video today, I'll have one tomorrow. For those who regularly watch every video I put out, thank you, by the way, if you do that. Love the support. But what I think I'm going to try, or I know I'm going to try, we'll see if it continues. I want to go to every other day. Excuse me, there's that cough I'm talking about. Every other day during the week, but then a video on Saturday and a video on Sunday. So like my bigger projects, like the larger videos, not like the new Lego Day stuff or the sort and chat, you know, we'll do a Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll do, you know, a Tuesday and a Thursday video. So you'll have no video Monday, no video Wednesday, no video Friday, but then you're going to have Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. The thing is, when I do every other day, it means I do 3.5 videos a week, which is a problem. It sounds, how do you do that? Well, when you do every other day, that means 1 week's going to have 4 videos. The next week will be 3. The next week will be 4, just because of how the days work out. It also means that sometimes I have a video on Saturday, sometimes I have a video on Sunday, but it's kind of random. And unless you're following my videos super close, you wouldn't really know when I'm going to post. So this will up my video output. That's the part that kind of has me a little nervous because I have burned out a little bit before. So I will be doing 4 videos a week instead of 3.5. But I think it'll work out good. You know, I generally don't work on Fridays, which gives me an entire day off that I can prepare for the weekend. And then I generally do work all weekend. Now in the winter, we're off on Sundays. We're closed on Sundays, but that's only in the winter. So that's going to end, and then I will be working all weekend because in retail sales and service, the weekend is everything. So all summer long, I work both weekend days as I manage the bike shop. But if I can prepare everything on Friday, have it ready to go, maybe work a little bit on Saturday night, I can have it all put together, ready to go for the weekend, and hopefully maintain 2 videos. At least we'll try it this month. We'll see how it goes, but it will add 2 videos a month, and I think it'll make more sense to the viewers so they can know when to find. You guys can know when to find my my content is going to be new. So that's the goal. We'll see how it works. That's why last weekend, I already started this. Last weekend, I did do a Saturday and a Sunday video. This video is, of course, a Thursday video, and I did a video on Tuesday. So we're going to do that again this weekend. Should have something cool prepared for you. In the time of filming this, I don't really know what I'm going to do this weekend yet, but I'll figure it out. I got time. I'm pretty impromptu with this stuff because I do make quite a few videos. I don't have the stuff planned out super great. Usually what I do for planning is, you know, I used to just kind of wing it and like get home from work, like, all right, I got to figure out a video for tomorrow or for 2 days. And so I'd pull something together. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're not. You know, not all of them are home runs. When you do it every other day, they're not all going to be home runs. But anyway, what I normally will do is I'll take a sheet of paper and I'll write the name of the month at the top, and I will just list ideas. And most months that I start, I've already got like 8 ideas ready to go. Now that doesn't mean I've started the videos or even like built anything for the videos or started playing at all, but I know it's a video I need to make, or have this idea as a good one. So that's going to get made this month. And then I can just kind of start to plug them in on the dates. I write a calendar down that sheet. And okay, so what video is going to be on Tuesday? What's going to be on Thursday? What am I going to do for the weekend? And kind of keeps me sane, so I know kind of what I need to do and when. Occasionally I'll get a day off where I can get real productive and I can get like 3 or 4 videos done in a day, and then I don't have to do a lot for like the next week. That's working smarter, not harder. But, you know, those the videos that are really good substance-wise, is that the right word? Substance? Substance, there we go. Those take a little more effort. So getting multiple of those done in a day is pretty impossible. You know, stuff like a tips, tricks, and techniques, or even a pieces video, those require me to build stuff. That is a camera tripod adapter. That is not a Lego. That's a divider. But stuff like that, you know, I gotta put a little more time and energy in. So that's the plan. We'll see how it works. If it doesn't work out, then next month we'll probably just go back to every other day and hopefully be able to maintain that all through the summer. We are getting pretty close to spring. We got about one nasty month left of winter. Now, I don't know about where you all live, but where I live, March is never guaranteed. Sometimes we get good weather, sometimes we get bad weather. March can be another month of winter, but March can also be, you know, really nice weather. Bike shop can get busy. We start selling stuff. You know, I start getting outside a little bit more, biking a little bit more myself. So that can affect YouTube as well, but sometimes not. So I'm looking forward to it. But it also means that we have the spring challenge coming up. I'm not going to say too much because I haven't done too much on it. I've still got some time, but I will probably put it out this month, probably toward the end of February. I'll put out the spring challenge. The reason I want to start it now is because I like to give people, I used to do like 1 month. I'd post the video, you got 1 month to build, and then you got to submit them. And I've been trying to give people a little bit more time, especially because I'm allowing people to enter multiple categories generally. So if you want to try to build 2 or 3 builds, you know, so I'm really striving for a month and a half. So if I put it out toward the end of February, let's say like it comes out right at the end of February, that'll give you a month and a half. That'll take us to the middle of April, which I don't know how you guys work with seasons, but the way my mind works, I don't do the actual seasons. To me, every season has 3 months. And that's how it works in my head. So March, April, May is spring. June, July, August, that's summer. September, October, November, that is fall. And December, January, February is winter. I know those are not the official starts and ends, but to me, that's how it works, and that's how I base the challenges. So if I do it that way, we'll be ending the challenge in the middle of April, which in my calendar is the middle of spring. And that works out well for me because it gives me some time to prepare for the summer challenge. Now, if you've been paying attention to my challenges, maybe you've partaken in some of them. I've been doing them by the seasons, but the seasons, it has not been intended to be the theme. It's intended to be the time frame. So when I first started doing the challenges, the first one I think was the October challenge, and that was last year. And then I did a November challenge. And then I said, oh my gosh, this is way too much work to do every single month. The challenges are a blast. I really enjoy them. I love seeing the stuff you guys make. With that being said, they are a lot of work. As far as content for this channel, I think the challenges are probably the thing that takes the most actual work. You know, there's counting there. I got to make all those PowerPoint slides. I got to count votes. I do like making the builds for myself, and I like making the videos. That's the part I really enjoy. And I do like seeing the results. And the biggest part, the most enjoyable part for me is seeing what you guys build. The ideas are why I love it. Being able to see all the things that you guys make, and then, using those concepts for myself, you know, stealing little bits here and there, you know, and just learning, getting inspired. You know, the purpose of this channel was not only just for the audience, but also for me to become a better Lego builder, and it has definitely done that a little bit throughout my journey here. But anyway, that's my favorite part of it. But it is hands down the part of this channel that takes the most effort per video, let's say. And it is definitely not the most viewed. I would say it is probably the most audience participation. You know, I get a ton of awesome comments. I get, of course, you know, 30 or 40 builds for every challenge. Might even be more than that. Actually, it's probably more like 50 or 60, maybe even 70 or 80. It's a lot. But so that of course is just awesome to see the community work and give me all these awesome builds and ideas to share. And that's the fun of it. But if I were, you know, a YouTuber just going off views, and you know, if the goal here was to make it ultra profitable, no, the challenges are definitely not where that's happening. But I do look at it, and again, this is not a channel about making money, really. Yes, it does make a little bit of money, but that money pretty much goes to fuel the addiction and help pay for all these ridiculous parts and keep me motivated to keep doing the videos and not just the Lego portion. But no, that is definitely not the main goal of this channel. And the main goal is definitely educating myself and others and building community. And that is where the challenges really strive, because they are definitely super community based and people really love them. I get so many thank yous on those videos for putting those challenges together, and that's pretty rewarding. You know, it's awesome to see that so many people are impacted by it and enjoy doing it. So that's why I like doing the challenges. But anyway, every month just was not feasible. I mean, by the time you know, especially the end of it, where you have to count all the votes, where you have to make all the PowerPoints, you have to get all the votes done, you have to count all the votes, you have to present the votes. It's like 4 videos that are, you know, very intensive to make, and it comes out great and people enjoy it, but it's a lot of work. You know, and you know, the biggest videos on this channel that get the most views are definitely like the pieces videos. Help Me Brick Sculpt does pretty well. Tree Sculptor series has been a little weak, but that's okay because I do that one also more for me. I really like building trees. Is probably, I shouldn't say probably, it is definitely my favorite thing to build out of Lego. Trees are just awesome. I love trying to make organic shapes out of very non-organic pieces, and I've really recently, if you can't tell by my city, I really enjoy doing trees because there's just so many creative things you can do with the pieces, and they just keep getting better and better the more I practice them. Oh, there goes that piece. So it's really rewarding to do the tree portion, and I really enjoy that. But the Tree Sculptor series is definitely more for me. The pieces videos do really well. Anything with tips, tricks, and techniques, anything about new pieces, anything about technique and showing how to build with stuff, those generally do the best. And then, of course, any of the more theory videos, which I haven't had a lot of lately, and people always ask me for that. There's another camera part. You know, I did the sugar grid videos, the obelisk videos. Those were definitely more of a mock, but there was a lot of, you know, technique and stuff built in there. But the sugar grid, the trans slider method, all that kind of stuff really has, those get a ton of views, and people always ask me why I don't do more stuff like that. You can probably guess why. It's not every day that I stumble upon a crazy technique that is not widely talked about in Lego, because Lego is definitely well explored. There's not a lot of unexplored territory in Lego. So coming up with the breakthrough, and I'm not by any means saying that sugar grid was my, that was the first one to do it. I did discover it on my own, but I know other people have done that before. I'm not the first, including a few official Lego sets. But I did myself think it through and figure it out, which was really fun to do. But it's not very often that you can think up a concept that's not already widely talked about in Lego, because so much of this stuff has already been so deeply explored. So I would love to have a whole playlist of videos like that, but I am not that smart. I'm pretty good with this stuff, but those videos take a lot of extra brain power, and unfortunately they don't just fall in your lap. Those are like once a year videos when you have that eureka moment and go, wow, the world needs to see this. Funny thing too is a lot of times those videos hit me and I'm not even prepared for them. I don't even think about them as videos. Like the funniest one's the obelisk. When I started the obelisk, I built this thing I was kind of bored. I was barely doing YouTube at that time. I was brand new to it and I was trying to figure out how it worked. And I built the stair-stepped obelisk version 1, and it was a short version. It's the one I showed in the first video. And it literally sat on my table for probably 2 or 3 months. And I just kind of was like, I'm going to keep working on this one day. And then eventually if it's cool, I'll share it. And then I was trying to come up with a video idea. And I'm like, let's show this off and see if I can get some inspiration from the crowd. And, the community loved it. I mean, it was not a very good looking obelisk, but I think it was not so much the build, because the build was not impressive. It was the concept. It was the idea. And that's what I find people are really into. If you're really trying to get a lot of engagement, it's the things that others haven't totally thought of. If you can engage that with other people, where it's like, okay, I haven't thought to try that, and that takes some really interesting techniques. That's what people, I think, come to Brick Sculpt for. And unfortunately, those ideas don't come around super often. Oh, I know the other one. I did a video on stud reversal using only plates and tiles. They're kind of like French cleat type stud reversals. That video did great, and it was such a simple video and such simple stuff. With me, math has never been my thing. I passed business calculus in college, and it was incredibly difficult for me. Math is definitely not my forte. I got through it. I had a professor that was not a natural English speaker, so I had trouble understanding them. And I struggled through it. I somehow passed the class, but that was the highest level of math I ever did, was calculus in college, and I definitely got a C in that class. But I did pass it, and I did get my degree. But one thing in math that has always come naturally to me is geometry. And it's because of stuff like this. It's building with Lego. As some of you probably know, or most of you probably know, I do a bit of woodworking myself, and I built all these cabinets. And I'm not a fine woodworker. I'm a very practical woodworker. If you need cabinetry done, I can do it. Now, I don't do it for other people. I just do it for myself. But if I need to build a cabinet, if I need to, make something functional, if I need to fix something, fix a door, I installed new doors in my house. That's easy. Countertop, stuff like that. I can do that kind of stuff. I'm quite handy. If it comes to things that take patience, like doing a really nice finish on a really nice cherry bookshelf, yeah, I could do it. I don't have the patience for it, or the time, or the money. So I don't do that stuff. But when I gotta build something to hold 100 pairs of my wife's and daughter's shoes, I can do that. And it's gonna look like a nicer version of what IKEA sells, but I can do that. And that's kind of where these come from. I built those. It's quite simple. But I do have a full wood shop at my house. So I got this kind of weird, it's like a sunroom, but it's off the back of the garage. So it's actually not attached to the main. It is attached to the house, but you have to go through the garage to get in it. And when we moved into the house, I was like, well, I asked the wife, what are we going to do with that room? Because it's kind of weird. Who's going to go through the garage? It's not heated. It's not cooled. So it's like what do they call it? A 3 seasons room, maybe. And I was like, no, we're never going to sit out there. It's weird. It's not finished. It's cold in the winter. It's hot in the summer. So I said, can I make that a wood shop? And the wife said, go for it. And so that's what I did. So I built out there. She is very gracious in letting me expand into my own spaces. Of this house, I've definitely claimed a few spots, this room being a big one. I have my own dedicated Lego room. By the way, I've started calling this the Sculptuary. So we can add that to the list of Brick Sculpt lore. This is the Sculptuary. But so I have this space. I have my own wood shop. The garage is pretty much all mine because I have, you know, probably a dozen bikes out there and all kinds of hobby stuff, you know, sports stuff. I'm into way too many things. It's a problem, but I like to stay busy. So yeah, she has definitely been very, very gracious in letting me have a lot of space to myself, where unfortunately she hasn't totally had equal space. But then she's not as big a hobbyist as I am, so she isn't necessarily looking for as much space. But we do have a nice, like on the other side of this basement where the Lego City used to be, the old space, that is now a craft area. So we have all the craft stuff over there for my daughter and my wife to use. I do a bit of crafting also, but more practical, like when I need to type crafts. But we got all the paint and sewing stuff and, you know, all clay and all kinds of weird, you know, craft things over there. So she has that space. But, yeah, having space is nice. I know that's one of the biggest reasons I get in the comments all the time. People tell me that, oh my gosh, I got out of this hobby a while ago and I'd love to get back in, but I struggle with space. And I get it. I mean, this is, you know, the bigger this collection gets, the harder it is to house it. And I am fortunate to do have this. I do have this nice large space that I can spread out and really organize everything. But I get it. Not everyone has that. And that's another, you know, I talk about this, I think, in every sort and chat. And I really should get off this topic. But it's another reason I'm not big on sets. As cool as sets are, they're super satisfying to build. And they're a lot of fun. And they look so good because the people that build them are just masterminds. Or the people who design them, I should say, are masterminds. But where the heck do you put them? You know, when you're done with it, you know, I got, you know, a handful of sets, and even those ones, you don't want to break them because they look so cool and you spent a lot of money on them, but they're just going to sit on a shelf forever. And I just don't know what to do with it. If you keep seeing these pop up, these are not Lego. I did the video recently on this piece in the Pieces series. And I had these from, I think they're like, I bought them a long time ago on like Temu, and I was doing some Brick Sculpt reviews stuff on junky Temu parts. And I thought they were like the piece I was actually looking for without the stick, but they're not. And they're junk. They're not worth having. So I've been pulling those out as I go. If you keep wondering what those pieces are, they're not Lego. They're just some off-brand stuff that needs to go in my off-brand bin. I get people asking all the time, talking about whenever I show, especially with new parts videos, people always want to tell me about alt bricks. And, you know, it kind of shows me that they haven't watched the channel for super long, because I've done quite a few videos on alt brick companies. I did a lot of stuff on Go Bricks and WeBrick. I even went into some of the junkier stuff like the AliExpress and Temu, that kind of junk. And I've shared a lot of opinions on it too. And I did a whole video on the different types of brick builders and how you have the purists and the rogues and, and, you know, but I get it. It's kind of tough because, you know, so many people I get so many comments, and I do my best to answer as many comments as I can. It gets tricky. You know, it's a long process, and there's many days I sit there and answer comments for an hour a day, you know, a lot of times. But, I like doing it, but I always get comments telling me, you know, oh, you look at this new piece, and Go Bricks has been making that for 4 years, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I know, and I know this is a brick building channel, but of course it is focused around Lego. Nothing against these alt brick people, but you got to give credit where credit is due. You know, everyone likes to resort back to, well, you know, they ripped off Kittycraft, and I'm like, yeah, they did, but did they really? I mean, they may have got the idea from them, but let's be honest, where's Kittycraft today, and where could it be, and where is Lego today? You know, just because you didn't invent the wheel doesn't mean you didn't make the greatest race car of all time. You know what I mean? You got to give credit for the innovation where it is. You know, you can give credit to Kittycraft for creating something really unique and new and pushing it, but but did anybody do even close to what Lego actually did? You know, as much as I am cool with the GoBrick stuff, it is super nice quality. I'm cool with WeBrick and WoBrick and that stuff. And I like, you know, certain companies. Panacea does a really good job. I've built several of their sets on the reviews channel. You know, Lumi Bricks, which used to be Funhole. I'm so glad they changed that name. They do really nice stuff. But, I mean, if we're being honest here, all these companies are definitely piggybacking on what Lego has done. You know, there's no denying that. And, you know, some of them are doing it as good or even arguably better. But at the end of the day, we do need to give credit where credit is due. We can't, you know, I can't be a Lego hater when at the end of the day, Lego is what made this empire of brick building habit madness. And at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, you gotta respect the original and the ones who've really pushed it. But yes, I do know about alt bricks, and I have bought them, and I have actually, I know I've had a long time debate about, do I want to use alt bricks in my city? I have incorporated a select few things, but I'm really picky with what I use. Everyone talks about how it's cheaper, and sometimes it is, but it's not a huge savings, and it's not the easiest stuff to buy. You know, the selection has gotten a lot better with alt bricks. You know, GoBricks in particular, I think does a really good job, but the stuff takes a while to ship. It might be cheaper for new parts, like on their website, but like, you know, trying to find weird stuff like what you can do on Bricklink or Brick Owl, GoBricks doesn't have that and likely never will. You know, there's just the sheer variety. You know, in certain things, like they'll take a piece like this and they're going to make it in 20 colors, where Lego, I think, makes this in like 5. You know, and that's cool, but that's one piece. You know, you have to look at all the history. I bet on this table alone right now, there's gotta be 1,000 unique pieces in this one bin I've been sorting for 42 minutes now. So it's the selection is huge just because of the history and all that, even if they are missing some color options. Now that's where I am kind of okay with cheating the system a little bit. Like, for instance, Lego mops, you know, they're not mops, the push broom. They only make the piece in reddish brown. Like, that's kind of weird. You know, I get it's a push broom, but like, why just reddish brown? Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I have even like modern brooms are typically not wood anymore. You know, you might as well do that in gray, or I think they might make it in lime green also. I might be wrong about that. But I bought one in sand blue. I thought it looked awesome, and I used it in my car wash. You know, they have that little scrub brush on the side, and like a reddish brown one would have looked terrible. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to use the GoBricks one. That's fine with me, and if anyone doesn't like it, they don't have to watch. Just kidding. I do appreciate all my viewers. But, you know, it's my stuff. At the end of the day, I am going to do what I want to do with it, and I do try to follow most rules. I know when I did that video, going back to this piece, probably the number one comment was, just cut it. And, you know, as I showed with those old fender pieces, I used to do a lot of that. But, you know, now that I'm doing the YouTube thing, I'm trying to take that a little more seriously. I was also a lot younger when I used to cut those. You know, I was in like middle school, high school. I was, you know, cutting pieces like crazy, but the selection was different back then. So like bars, oh man, I used to cut these all the time, but they didn't make a 4-long version. They didn't make a 3-long version. They still don't make a 2-long version unless it's got the bump in the middle, which I think is kind of ridiculous. But this piece did not exist. You know, you had this or you had this, and these were a little bit different, but it's the same basic piece. So I was like, yeah, I used to cut these all the time, you know, and some people didn't like that, although I wasn't sharing it with the public then. So at the end, it didn't really matter. Some people now don't really like that's what I should have said. But you know, now being that I'm doing this a little bit more publicly on YouTube, try not to do a lot of my own modification like that. I am still working on the Rubik's Cube project. I spent a few days feverishly working on that. I had some time off this winter that I needed to use up some vacation time. And I did a short trip, but then I was like, all right, I've got like a week of just sitting at home with nothing to do and it's freezing cold outside. So I really hammered down on some Lego stuff during that time. And I dove in deep to one of my... dove in deep to that Rubik's Cube project, and I haven't shared. I'm going to do one later this month. I'll do an update on the Rubik's Cube, but I'll give you a little bit of the, since you've made it 45 minutes into this video, if you're listening to this, I'll give you a little sneak peek that I'm not going to share with the general public because they'll never see this if they don't watch all the way in here. But I am having a little bit of struggle with the core of the Rubik's Cube. And what I mean by that is, I'm if you haven't seen that, I'm building the 4x4. So the squares are 4x4s, and then of course there's 9 squares on each side. So the thing is quite large, and it's quite heavy. And the problem is, pretty much any core design I come up with, I've got one that works fantastic, but it's just too fragile for the weight of the Rubik's Cube. This is a problem I think that's unique to that larger cube. I think when I build a, if I ever go back to the 2x2 sided Rubik's Cube, that won't be as big a problem because the weight isn't there. I mean, this thing is exponentially heavier than a 2x2 Rubik's Cube. And so the core is just too weak. So why am I mentioning this? I was talking about destruction of Lego. One thing I've never really done much of is gluing Lego. I do have my E6000 here, but I use that just to stick the cheese slopes on these bins. That's all I use this for. My wife came down yesterday and she said, "Why do you have glue?" I guess she'd never seen that down here. I don't know. I usually have it in a drawer. And I said, no, it's just for gluing these on. She goes, "You better not be gluing Lego. That's against the rules, right?" And I said, well, depends who you ask. But yes, I don't glue Lego. I just use it for those cheese slopes. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is on this core, part of me is considering, and I might do it more towards when I'm finished with the cube, part of me is considering if I have to glue portions of the core together. And first of all, you're probably right now saying, no, that doesn't count as cheating. And you're right. I mean, it's definitely would not be very purist of me. But if we take a step back and think about it, if Lego were to make a larger Rubik's Cube, I can bet you, or I would bet you, that they are going to, or that they would make some unique, specific parts for it. I highly doubt that Lego would ever release a Rubik's Cube that did not contain any new pieces. Just because of the complexity of the thing. And because, Lego has some obstacles to work around that mock builders don't. Lego has to build these things, and they have to make sure that when they sell it and a kid builds it, that it's not going to fall apart with a little bit of play. I don't have to do that. Now, I usually do. Most of my mocks are pretty structurally sound, where you can toss them around, you can turn them upside down. But there are a few exceptions where, certain things are a little more fragile. They're not totally fragile, but you got to handle them with a little bit of care. For example, like snot windows. When you put windows in on their sides, they're not going to be as firmly attached as a traditionally put in Lego window, but you can get more detail out of it. So anyway, if they were going to do a Rubik's Cube, especially a bigger one, which I think would make for a much better set than a smaller one, they would almost have to make a one-piece core. They'd almost have to. If it was larger, a smaller one you could probably get away with because of the weight, like I said. But a larger one, I think they would almost have to. So with that logic, part of me is like, and I'm not going to glue it, or I don't know if I'm going to glue it yet, but I'm definitely not going to do it before I do the video. So in the next video, I will have a pretty decent looking Rubik's Cube. I actually really like how it looks. But the functionality is still a little rough, and the reason being is the core is not totally holding up to the weight. And I've tried 4 or 5 different ways to do the core, One, it's a battle of LDU, and LDU is tough with something like that. And trying to get all those moving parts and stay within the same LDU. But two, it's a strength issue. And I think no matter what configuration I do, the strength issue is not going to fully go away to where I could like actually pick this thing up and start moving it around. Like I can slide it around and keep it together, but on the table. If I want to actually be able to like handle this thing, it almost will have to be modified in some way. And that's why I say if Lego were ever going to make one of these for the public in like an official set, I'm pretty sure they would make a one-piece core that does not come apart. That would not be, I don't think would be too far-fetched to think, because it is definitely the way you're going to get one that is more structurally sound, because you can get the LDU just right, but Lego has a certain degree of movement to it. It just does. And you're playing with very, very precise fitting stuff, and the amount of slop in the bricks is just not there, especially when that core is not rock solid and the parts start to come apart. So that's just my thought, and I'm going to do a whole video on that, so I've pretty much spoiled about half of it there. Just kidding. It'll still be a good video. But I don't think a lot of people are going to see this, because we are now 50 minutes in, and so you, if you're still watching this, are in the chosen few. You're getting all the secret insights here that I'm not going to share at the beginning of the videos. Maybe that's the new tradition I'm going to do. As I do these sorting chats, those who stick around are going to get all the good details that not everyone else is going to hear. You're going to be informed. Speaking of extra details, I was really trying to make a push on Patreon for a bit. Patreon to me is a lot like the Brick Sculpt reviews. Like, several people had asked me to set up Patreon, and I was new to Patreon, and I'm not totally in love with Patreon, and I do put stuff up on there, and I need to be better about it. I need to put more up on there, because I do have a couple of people that are paying members on there, and I do appreciate them, and I feel like I need to offer more on there, and it's not a labor of love for me like this is. You know, this kind of stuff I really enjoy. And the Patreon thing, to me, it's a lot like social media. I'm not big on, I don't do really very much of anything with social media anymore. That's why you don't see me on Instagram and stuff like that. I do have a Brick Sculpt Instagram, but it does not get used. So don't bother trying to join that one. It's all spammers and stuff that have joined that. All the subscribers on that are, I don't believe most of them are real people. I might be wrong, but most of them do not look like anyone who's ever watched my channels. Yeah, social media is not totally my thing, and the Patreon kind of goes right along with that. I'm also not big on, begging for money. I get it. I'm not saying that's all Patreon is. I totally understand a lot of these creators on Patreon. They're trying to make a living out of it, and they need that to keep it going, and I get that, and I'm all about supporting people and following your dreams, and that. This to me is not my full-time job. It likely never will be. Who knows, but I don't think it will, and I don't know that I even want it to be. So to me, when I get on Patreon, it's kind of like I'm begging for money I don't really need, and I don't know, it's just not my personality. I'd rather just give you everything for free. I know when I started Rebrickable a couple of years ago, and I don't have a lot on Rebrickable, but I have a handful of things. But of course, people on Rebrickable are selling stuff, and it's cool. If you want to put a lot of time, energy in something and try to sell it, that's great. Everything I have on Rebrickable is free, and likely always will be, because that is not something I'm banking on for extra cash. Trying to sell my designs on Rebrickable, and maybe I'm a fool for that. I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you think I should be, but I don't know. Most of the stuff I put on Rebrickable, and I'm not super active on there, but most of the things I post on there, they're gonna get views for a couple days. Maybe it'll get up to like 200, maybe 150 to 200 likes, and then they just kind of phase off, and then they just sit there. And that's fine. I use it more to support this channel, where like I did the Ultimate Pine Tree 2.0, and I said that if I get a certain amount of likes, I would post it. And that wasn't me hunting for likes. It was more a reward system because I was not motivated to do the studio portion of it. Building trees on studio are particularly tough for me. Now, I am not a great studio builder either. I am much more comfortable building with my hands than I am on a computer. That is not my forte. I get asked all the time, especially with like the obelisk project, Lego ideas. Do I think it would be cool to submit to Lego Ideas? Yes, I do. Do I want to submit to Lego Ideas? Do I want to put in the effort that it would be needed to make something Lego Ideas worthy? Not really. I think the obelisk might be something cool to put up there, but I don't want to build it in studio. I know some people it comes super natural to, like one of my longtime, buddies, Luca Herman, who I talked to a lot on, used to talk to a lot on Discord, and he does my challenges, and he actually designed this logo. Luca is just a mastermind with Lego, and he could build. It seems like he can pump this stuff out so fast. He's all over the Discord server, and when somebody has a question about how a part connection work, it's like the guy can hop in the studio, throw together this crazy complex build with 400 pieces with all these crazy connections, and then post it up on there within like 10 minutes. And I'm like, how do you do that? I mean, I sit there and struggle. Unless it's a very simple build, I struggle with this stuff. So I did talk with him for a while in the early days of the obelisk about possibly collaborating it, and he would do kind of the studio portion, and we'd share some ideas, and we'd maybe submit the obelisk as the both of us, doing it. It didn't really happen. I'd still be open to it. I haven't talked to him about it in a while, and I hope I didn't let him down with that. But he's got some really cool designs himself, so I don't think he really necessarily needs me to piggyback off me, because a lot of his stuff is better than the stuff I do. I mean, he's a mastermind. We're a little bit different builders. He's very mathematical. His stuff is very genius when it comes to LDU and connections, far beyond what I can do. A lot of my Lego building, I find, is, I'm getting better with the mathematical side of it, with how the connections work and all that. But I feel like where I really excelled was always like the detail work. I've been meaning to make a video on this, and I might do it in February. I might have to wait till March, but I want to do a video about kind of the two aspects of Lego mock building, because there really is two different parts, and that's what I think makes this hobby awesome. You have the creative side, and you have the mathematical side. So one side of it is, how do I put it together, and the other side of it is how's it going to look? You know what I mean? And the mathematical side works very well in studio. That's just how things fit together. Do they fit or do they not? The other side of it is, okay, in a real setting, where would these things sit? How do they look spatially next to each other? It's more artistic on that side. It's the more creative. The layout, the feel, would that ever be sitting next to that? Does this work here? They both are required to make a nice build. You have to know how to you have to know where the pieces should be, and you have to know how to get them there. And I think that's going to be a future video. I think it'll be a really good video, actually. So stay tuned for that one. I am pretty much done with this box here. I got a little bit left, but we are going on about an hour here, and I'm ready to take a break. I don't know about you guys, but I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up for today. I hope you guys liked this video. As always, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. That's all I have for this time, and we will see you next time.